Hi, I'm Heinbach. Good to have you back. This is a video on a technique that I first learned about at Willem II Studios and have been obsessed about for the past months. It involves passive bandpass filters, routing them back to the mixer and using them to process sound. If you have downloaded my sound pack isolation loops that I made last week, you might have seen the Bandpass ambience, and those were all created using that exact technique. And patron Fano Poea was wondering how it is actually employed. And yeah, so now I'm gonna show you how this works. And the nice thing is, you can apply it not only to passive filters, you can apply it everywhere, because it opens up any kind of effect. Now what we have here is probably the cheapest passive bandpass filter you can buy, the Brilliant Care Type 1630. I have 4 of those and I paid no more than 60 bucks for each, and oftentimes they still come attached to the meters, the sound level meters, for which I made a video too. But these things are rather amazing in their sound. They've got a rich chocolatey tone to them that I personally really enjoy. Why passive filters? Well, to get the degree of precision that was needed for measurements back in the day, you needed something that wouldn't influence the signal too much. So they made passive filters that employed only the best components to get precise and very steep filters. This is the Metasonics D1000 drum machine, a lovely machine in its own right, but now we're going to process it with this filter. And the way this is set up is I've put this filter and the other filter up here, the Allison Labs 2D, in parallel on an aux. So the signal will go into this filter and then will go onto a channel back here on the mixing board, on its own channel and not back to the aux return. Same thing with the Allison Labs 2D filter up there. It also gets the signal and is split to another channel. This way I've got 2 different filters and I can process the signal on 2 faders here again. So let's hear how that sounds with the small Brilliant Care filter. Now this is already a nice and crispy signal, but what we can now do is feedback the filter on itself. Because it is on aux 4 and it goes back to a channel, if I open up the aux again, it will feed back into itself and start to self-resonate. You can hear the glassy tones. You always have to watch for feedback, because if you, it will self-oscillate. And the point where it self-oscillates is different for each frequency. So now we can add in the original signal again. That's already a much more exciting and richer signal. But we can also use this as a bass equalizer. For example, I'm going to set this to a very low frequency. So now we basically get only the sub frequency. And we can feed that back in itself also. Probably getting some nasty feedback right now. Yeah. This is way too high a level. That's fun. Let's just bring in the original signal and add the filtered signal. If you get headphones or a subwoofer, you can hear that deep sound. But of course, it's nice to try on every frequency. Since we now have that frequency band isolated, we can also apply effects. such as a touch of quad reverb. Some echo. But what if we use two filters? So now I'm going to bring in the Allison Labs over there. The Allison Labs have the advantage that you can define the frequency range that you want to hear. So it becomes like a frequency curtain, as Hans puts it. Pan the signals, add some effects. I just find that this makes something as this simple drum loop, or not drum loop, but generated rhythm, much more exciting and adds a cinematic and very emotional edge to it. It feels like you can dive into different resonant frequencies of the brain, if that's because like stuff like this tingles the hairs on the back of my neck. Connecting these old filters can be a bit of a hassle. The Allison Labs employs banana cables, so you can just use a converter box or DIY your own converters. I'm using the low gain util box, which will convert banana to mini jack and regular jack. The Boulinkea Type 1613 uses proprietary connectors, but it's basically just DC barrel connectors. While I was DIYing them myself, my dear colleague DivKit found out that you can just use these Voodoo Labs barrel to jack connectors that you can buy in any store. Let's try this with the synthesizer. I've got the Erica Synth Syntrax prototype right there. So now same setting, I'm just adding the same filter settings that were before. Almost like overtone singing up there. So you can create ghostly overtone pads out of the signal that's there. And this kind of diving deep into sound is something why I love the test equipment for its precision. In isolation loops, I use this technique very effectively with the Roland Juno 60. So let's try that. Original Juno sound. Filtered sound. Turn off all reverb. Get the other filter in, the Allison Labs. Now bring in the Juno again. Let's make the curtain a bit closer by feedbacking it into itself. And now let's again add reverb and echo. And I think you can hear what kind of an exciting unsynthesizer sound you get from this. It doesn't sound anymore like, like a Juno 60. It sounds like something different. And it sounds very rich. Because as I said in the single mode synthesis stream that I did with my friend Constantine, these things, passive filters, they have a very rich whiskey-like taste to them, if you want to describe it like that. The nice thing is, this technique you can also do with any kind of other effect. One of the most viewed videos that I made, how to turn any 3-head tape deck or reel-to-reel into a tape echo, employs exactly this technique of using an aux and then feeding the signal back into the mixer instead of to an aux return. And I encourage you to try that with anything. Maybe we'll just try it out with some cheap pedal that I have lying around. So this dusty thing is a Behringer copy of a Boss pedal. And I don't want to give Behringer any recognition, because I really think they are a morally bankrupt company after all the stuff that they pulled all the time, and especially in recent times. But this is a nice working, super cheap pedal. It's probably the cheapest thing of studio equipment that I ever bought. So now I've set up the pedal onto an aux, and I can feed it back into itself also, which sounds like this. I can shape it with Equalizer. And let's see what happens if we send it a signal now. Actually not half bad. This actually makes me happy. This, I never tried it with the vibrato before, but there's some cool textures in there. A little wonky, but I kind of like that. So I just encourage you, take any effect that you have and try to feed it back via the aux. I don't think you can damage stuff too much, especially analog stuff should be fine. I feel like digital stuff might lock up and crash. That can happen if there's too high input levels. I know that's been an issue with some Strymon effects that I had. I mean, I had only the timeline, and that would crash at high modular levels, but with no damage after. But yeah, just try it out and see what you can explore in all your old effects pedals. Phasers will work great, chorus will work great, anything that does like timeline manipulation is very, very good. So, but try it on everything. So, I'm gonna head over to the piano and make some music. I'm going to upload the music from this episode and a mini soundtrack of the sounds that you've heard onto the Patreon. And thanks to everybody who supports me there, you're the reason I can keep on doing these videos. My soundpack Isolation Loops is still free, pay what you want. And if you can afford to buy it, awesome, else just make music with it and post it in the subreddit, where you can also drop all your questions that the comment section can't answer. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.